We have something truly special, a live performance with a talk by incredible sound artist who builds musical instruments out of salvaged electronics and mechanical parts. His work is more than inventive. It's a living metaphor for the future of education in the AI era. Creative, hands-on, and deeply human. Bryan Day is a San Francisco-based sound artist, music instrument inventor, and experimental musician, and his sound sculptures, some of which are installed at San Francisco's Exportorium, challenge our ideas of what music, engineering, and creativity can be. His instruments don't just sound. They tell stories about innovation, resourcefulness, and the beauty of building something entirely new from what others might throw away. Let's give a huge round of applause to welcome Bryan Day.
Hey, I'm Bryan Day. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I've been building instruments and doing sound art performances and other kinds of projects since the late 90s. I've built about 200 different sound art pieces over the last couple decades. I started building instruments when I was in high school. I was very interested in the idea of modifying things that I found, old keyboards, cassette players, all sorts of things, just to figure out like what kinds of sounds I could get out of those things. My uncle worked as a television and radio repairman up in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis. He kind of introduced me to electronics when I was 6, 7 years old. From there, I started a little synthesizer company when I was in college. I went to Iowa State University, which is in Ames, Iowa. And I started building synthesizers and small electronic like noisemakers, really. Around that same time, I started a record label, working with artists from all around the world, setting up music tours for people from the US in Japan back in the early 2000s. And went to art, I went to school for art, but ended up getting a software job at an insurance company. So that was like what funded everything when I was in the early 2000s. Quit that job, ended up, I worked there for like 6 years. In Omaha, you can probably guess what insurance company that was. And from there, helped run a gallery, helped start a gallery and run a gallery with a lot of performances and experimental music performances, experimental art exhibitions, things like that. And then ended up in the Bay Area. I started a job designing first children's museum exhibits, and then from there started designing science museum exhibits at the Exploratorium. And that's what I do right now. Basically, it's like an R&D type thing where which I don't foresee being easy to do by AI yet. It involves tons of user testing, which is one of those areas where you can't easily do that without having lots of people involved. But yeah, early on, started by modifying keyboards and electronics. These are like this is an old drawing from like 1998 of a keyboard that I was gonna modify to turn into an instrument. And then eventually I did turn it into this instrument here, which I took the guts out of the keyboard. I made this sort of wooden sculptural piece, and you play it by just kind of holding your hand on it and kind of barely like moving your hand in it. And the resistance of your fingers and your skin creates all these semi-random tones that you can play. Some early examples of little synthesizers I built when I was still living in Iowa. The cases were made out of soap boxes from Walmart. And a number of artists in Japan bought these from me. So this was like early connection to Japan from these synthesizer boxes I used to build. Actually, when I was in college, I worked at Subway restaurant, and they tossed a bunch of their little containers out for holding whatever, like meats or cheese or whatever. And I took one and I turned it into the body of a stringed instrument that I would fill with water, and you could push it around and it would kind of modulate the pitches coming from the strings. Crank instruments, this one that you see on the left is something I built in like 2003, maybe 2004. The one on the right is something I built based on that idea about 2 years ago. Pendulum instruments, the pendulums are actually plumb bobs. You can move them back and forth, and there's a little bar that the string will hit against, which will cause the pitch to change every time the string hits it. So you kind of rock it back and forth to change the sound. The one on the right is a version that uses electromagnets, so you can change the pitch of the strings by adjusting the intensity of the voltage applied to the electromagnets below the string. Measuring tape instruments, I've been doing that for a long time. These instruments are, sort of a thumb piano type thing, and then this thing on the right is what I call a whisker phone. And I have both of these ideas are kind of integrated into the setup that I have now. I put together a touring musical instrument setup that I think I show various iterations of touring instrument setups here. This is actually the current version, and these pictures are actually from Brasilia, Brazil, from a couple of years ago. These are instruments you push around like chairs. I thought that action was kind of funny and interesting. One on the right has bicycle handles that you can use to change the pitch of some strings, and the other one plays the texture of the sound of the ground that you're pushing it on. The one on the left is a pendulum that controls a bunch of marbles that strike glockenspiels bars. And the one on the right I have over here, it's sort of a bunch of carbon fiber rods that you can kind of push around a room as kind of like a sort of pets or something that you could just kind of like play the room with. This is an instrument that uses rubber bands and bicycle brake handle and keys, and I actually have it over here. I'll have to kind of do a little finagling here. So by pushing the brake handle, you open up the springs, and it adds a reverb effect. And the thing that you're playing are rubber bands, so it's not very. Most of this stuff is pretty dissonant. I was making a series of amplified marionettes to play with for the kids' workshops for a number of years. So that's what you see on the right there. This is a sound quilt. I made a bunch of quilts from pants, and they have little like Easter eggs inside of them that make different kinds of sounds when you expose them to light. The thing on the right is a wind-powered version of these measuring tapes that has a little thing to catch the wind at the bottom, and it's powered by solar panel. This is like a rail like an instrument that has two strings. They're connected to weights, and they move back and forth, and they are played by a bowing action that happens when you apply a modulated voltage to the speakers. So the speakers move back and forth, and that causes bowing action. There's actually little sort of violin bows in between them. The thing on the right is a MIDI-controlled, like a music software controllable FM radio that I have it right here, so you can. I had a residency in Germany, and I built some kind of vibrating metal sheet instruments. So that's what you see on the left there. I kind of adapted that to something that I could easily fabricate here in the States, and so I made a version that uses these little levers to bend the metal. So you apply a modulating magnetic field to the bottom, which you can change. It's actually a vibration conveyor system electromagnet that does that. It's an AC thing. And so you can adjust the frequency of that AC electromagnet and cause the sheet to shake, and then you can bend it with those levers, cause the sides of it the corners of it to bend upward, changing the qualities of that sound. This is a thing that you play by pressing the buttons, and it causes the thing on the right is a thing that you press the buttons and it collapses this metal sort of HVAC xylophone that is played by some craft beads. It's a MIDI controlled thing. You play it with a keyboard. So you press down on a key and it rotates the little drum of xylophone bars at the bottom, and then after it rotates to the position of the note that you pressed, then it starts playing put the balls on it. Walkie-talkies that are used as a mixer, an audio mixer. You send sounds to the walkie-talkies. There's one receiver, 3 sending walkie-talkies, and it mixes the audio together in a very, like the frequencies compete with each other, and it's a strange kind of sound. I build exhibits, so here's some they're not all music exhibits, but here are 2 music exhibits. The one on the left is a sequencer that physically sequences hammers that hits stuff I got from a thrift store, that it basically apple-sized objects that fit in these bowls. You do a sequence with a little button pad, and it plays them with hammers, and then you can rearrange them. So I don't know if you're familiar with Urban Ore in Berkeley, but I bought a lot of that stuff there. Thing on the right is a kid's bike for a children's museum. You ride the kid's bike, and then there's a air pump inside that is connected to the chain. And when the chain drives the pump, it fills up a balloon on the top. And the balloon serves as a regulator for 2 slide whistles that the brake levers control. So you can change the pitch by squeezing on the brake handles and play it by pedaling. Some commission stuff. These are string exciters that I did. This is actually something I built for a project for John Batiste. He was artist in residence at a gallery in New Jersey. And the gallery got in touch with me about making a hybrid melodica trumpet. And this is another commission project of some variable speed turntables. So if you are interested in this type of thing, you can figure out what kinds of sounds things will make pretty easily using a stethoscope or things like that. And, putting stethoscope to a metal, listening in, seeing what kinds of sounds you can get out of it. I'm going to turn everything on and make some sounds for the next 10 minutes.
Wow. Give Bryan a huge round of applause. That was amazing. National treasure for us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if AI can do that. So
That'd be pretty hard to beat that.
every once in a while, I go to Midjourney and I put a bunch of pictures of my table setups on there, and I'm like, okay, let's see if you can come up with a new iteration of that. And, so eventually, maybe, but at the moment, yeah, we're in an interesting space where the normal is being normalized, and the outside of the normal is still outside of the normal, just like the, recognizing different kinds of faces. It's also recognizing different kinds of like artistic intentions is not something that I've seen done well, but yeah. So yeah, if you have any questions, I know that was pretty weird, kind of like
That was cool. Super cool. Do you have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, I didn't really get to talk about this one. Just really quickly, like this is one of my coworkers got their car hit and the side view mirror popped off. And this thing here is the side view mirror mechanism attached to a old school film canister with a bunch of marbles in it. Nothing too fun, but I thought the story of the broken mirror was kind of interesting. But yeah, any questions?
I think they're all shocked. Very much shocked.
That's all right.
The point that you raised was when we had the film festival between human and AI, and somehow human was able to come on top of AI because they're able to go to the fringe. The AI is almost like a huge model that average everything together into generating something just standard or what you are used to. But human creativity is able to go to that edge and then go beyond that and come in with something incredibly different than what AI average model can come out. What do you see in that kind of experience?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we're all talking about now, and I don't know how long now really is applicable to like these conversations about AI because things are changing. But I do see that it is hard to kind of come up with that kind of nuance, that underlying kind of like intentionality that people have that AI really hasn't kind of gotten to yet. I mean, it's able to kind of infer using its own, methods, certain things, but I don't think there's any kind of real intentionality behind anything yet. Maybe that comes when it's it's all agent based or something like that, demon based, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think that I mean, to just kind of like simplify, yeah, I don't think it's there yet. I don't know if the way we function is anything near the way AI works, but there could be it could be analogous in some ways, I guess, so I don't know. Yeah, I think but I think creativity, humans can sense that, like people can just sense that something is like off, even if it's off in the right way or something, like you can kind of tell that something's made by AI, even if it just from some kind of like superficial feeling that you get from its creation. So I think that knowing that that's there, knowing that people do that, I think we're not really gonna be too worried about like the hard arts or whatever being like completely destroyed. But I don't know what people care about anymore. I don't know if people actually care about the solid arts that history is kind of like that you're taught in school. I don't know if that's as much of a concern anymore with people. So I don't know. Hope that wasn't too much of a blathering mess, but yeah.
But that's a great way for us to close today's episode, and it's that stimulation, that difference, that creativity part that's gonna set us human different than AI. And thank you, Bryan, for that. Let's give Bryan another round of applause. Thank you, Bryan. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's amazing. If there's one thing that we hope you take away tonight, is that the future of education won't be defined by technology alone, but by how we choose to adapt, guide, and support our next generation through it. That means staying curious, asking better questions, and making space for creativity, empathy, and resilience. This isn't the end of the conversation. It's just the beginning. So please keep talking, keep questioning, and keep building. Thank you again for being with us. We'll see you next time.